Hello everybody, what's up? You're listening to I Was Just Wondering with Tom Salmon, the podcast that dives into music, film and games and everything else in between. My guest on this week's episode is Jimmy Olsson, who wrote, directed and produced his latest short film, Alive, starring Madeleine and Eva Johansson. The film tells the story of Victoria, a disabled woman yearning for intimacy, and her overprotective care assistant, Ida, who reluctantly sets up a Tinder profile for Victoria with troubling results. We jumped into Jimmy's experience of writing a live screenplay in under 90 minutes in an airport lounge, his thoughts and feelings on disability and online dating, and the secret to shooting mundane yet visually inviting locations. So, if you're running, stuck in a traffic jam, or sitting behind a desk at work, I hope you enjoy my interview with Jimmy. Okay, so for people who haven't seen your film and commercial work, who are you and what do you do?
I'm the type of director who likes to I like people. I like the relationship between people. So basically, I'm not the typical super visual kind of director because I focus on the people and the relationships, and I tend to add some comedy in everything I do, even if it's super dark. Because I tend to write either funny bits or really dark ones, and sometimes I combine them because I think everything needs, whatever you do, everything needs some comedy to it to make it more three-dimensional, basically. So yeah, I'm a character director rather than a super visual one. I focus on the people.
Right, and that directly relates to your latest short film, Alive. So what's that film about, and why did you want to make that film?
Well, I wanted to make that film is about the relationship between a carer and a disabled person in a wheelchair. And so I heard this story. I heard actually a podcast last summer, a similar story basically about this guy. I think it was. He was disabled in a wheelchair, and he wanted to have. I think he wanted to book like an escort. Right. And his care was like unsure. Do you think it is a good idea? And also he said something about I want to be with the escort alone, but you don't know who it is and what will happen. And I saw the drama when the carer was waiting outside, not knowing what was going to happen. So I was, this is interesting. I might be able to do something interesting about this. And then I added on. The thing, well, I think it's a lot about prejudice. It's a lot about prejudice, how we as able people see the disabled people. It's about we think we know best because we are able and we are here to basically keep you alive. It's. I think some of us able people we don't see what's happening on the inside. If the disabled person is having fits and really the aesthetical part of the disabled person, we judge that and we think that that's what's happening inside as well. If you can't move, or can't speak, or can't do anything, then we judge that on the inside as well. So I wanted to do something about that. Even though if you can't move, you have the same yearns or lusts and passions as everyone else.
So a key moment in the film is when Ida, Victoria's carer in the movie, sets her up with a Tinder account. And Tinder is a minefield. I mean, hookups, catfishing, zombieing, ghosting. Yet sex is seemingly easier than ever to come by. So do you think disabled people are living in a time of a new sexual revolution or a more conservatively biased world?
Yeah, I think we all the same. I remember when Tinder started, 10 years ago, and it was I think like Grindr, isn't it? You want to hook up quickly, and then it's developed to be. Well, I think it's a hookup site still, but I think more and more people are. Want to have a relationship, and they go for Tinder to hook up and find a date quickly, and then they get to know the person. But I think if you want to hook up, it's it's a quick way of, oh, all right, want to meet up, want to have a cup of coffee, and then let's go fuck. Yeah. So I think it's the same for all.
And I was just thinking about that in terms of, because even if you're able-bodied and when it comes to sort of online dating, there's always this element of hiding oneself, just about your sort of like personality, maybe past history. But I guess with someone who's disabled, I mean, I guess like physically disabled, it's like they're clearly disabled. Yeah, but they can present something to someone. And I guess there's that fine line between like, I guess what's an interesting comparison and something we'll sort of jump into with you is you do play Victoria's shady Tinder date in the movie. Yeah. And what was interesting is somebody who's able-bodied then having a sexual relationship with somebody who's disabled.
Oh, yeah. I think for me, Ida, the character Ida who plays the character, I think she's more or less the audience. So she's like, we're her. So she thinks automatically if an able person wants to hook up with a disabled person, he's a creep. Because he just want to fuck and perhaps beat her, whatever, I don't know. A weird fetish thing going on, I don't know. So that's a prejudice. She doesn't know if they have had, a brilliant or very nice, heartwarming conversation all night, talking about bits and bobs. But so she immediately, when she sees the person, okay, it's a white male, he looks shady, and she's a disabled person, helpless. He's gonna, come over and beat the crap out of her and rape her, basically. Yeah. So that's a prejudice. And by all means, fair enough for some people, but, you shouldn't judge the book by its cover.
And I just want to sort of touch on this. I want to get your thoughts on this because you mentioned in a previous interview, Victoria, that potentially her character was a potential boxer and a disability might stem from a head injury instead of being born with a mental and physical impairment. So you were able to cast an able-bodied actor in that role. But did you kind of look at actresses with disabilities for the part as well?
Yeah, I did, yeah. I've worked with a couple of disabled actors before, but it's really difficult, at least in Stockholm and Sweden, to find disabled persons that do this for a living, that, where I can, really work with them instead of just casting them because they are just, disabled and they have issues with the intricacies and, of the character. So I chose, I know it's perhaps not the perfect way, but I chose an able person to portray this disabled person because I could work with the backstory a bit more. I could work with the character a bit more in a more intricate way. So that's why I chose an able person.
I mean, have you had any conversations with critics and audiences or disabled groups about the portrayal of Victoria's disability? Because it's very complex.
No, I haven't. I've reached out to the disabled community, a couple of organizations. They just like a couple of days ago, so I haven't had the storm coming at me yet.
Right. And I was just thinking, did you have many conversations with Eva about playing Victoria, about the physical appearance and her sort of acting choices, the kind of thing was that written into the script in terms of the disability, in terms of how you're writing that dialogue and the character?
It wasn't written in that much. We talked a lot about the backstory being perhaps she could have been a boxer, just to have something for her to work on. I didn't want to have any statement against boxing that could cause brain damage, but we talked about two different, don't know what it's called in English, but two different brain damages that affects her speech and the way she moves. And we talked about, and she watched a lot of videos and interviews with people with that same disability. So in terms of research, she did her work. She did this for, I don't know, almost 2 months. So it's not super much, but it's enough for 2 days of shooting, I think. We had a lot of conversations about that, and I wanted to, because I'm usually quite open for if you come with an idea and I think it's good, why not use it?
Yeah.
Because I don't have the best ideas all the time. I just gather everything and then put it in a pot and we mix it up and then hopefully something good comes out of it. So she had it because she was interested in the part. She was interested in the character, and she did her research. And I was like, no, yeah, bring it on. That that could work. That sounds nice, and why not? If it fits your way of interpreting this character, why not? We have it's not, nothing is set in stone. So that was a good part of the conversation when we worked on the script and rehearsed the script with Madeleine as well.
And what's interesting about their relationship, I think, is not just the sexual aspect of a disabled person wanting to have sex, is the actual relationship between like carer and patient, and how they form a very sort of tender sort of friendship, which goes beyond their sort of professional, I guess, like interactions. And there's a scene in the restaurant with Bjorn and Ida, and she's talking about the fact that potentially Victoria's going to hook up with this guy, and Bjorn takes a very logical approach to it. He goes like, well, she's a grown woman, and she's sort of capable of making her own decisions, but the other side, the more emotional side, is like, oh, potentially what could kind of befall if this person isn't who they say they are.
One thing I thought of when she in the beginning of the film when they are forming this bonding relationship, it's also for me a part of that she feels sorry for her. So in the first draft, Madeleine's character Ida was supposed to be a lot more distant and a lot colder towards her and stuff. But then when we put everything together and it was it's a super short story and we have these solutions, we didn't have time. That perhaps that's a future feature. I don't know. It's almost like the French film The Untouchables, as we call. I think for me, Ida, the character Ida, I think she's a bit more worried about herself. What could happen in a way, and we want to, as an audience, believe that. What happens to me if something happens to her? That's one way of looking at it. So in the restaurant scene, she's looking for some support. Doesn't get it. It doesn't get what she wanted because he's not really interested, and he's like you say, he's just illogical. This is the logic of it, and she's like, and she tries yet again, but she doesn't get any response. So I think she's a bit more worried about herself.
What's interesting between the conversation between Ida while they're watching TV is Victoria asks Ida about the first time that she had sex with Bjorn.
I thought. So they've known each other some time, and it's an unusual question. It shows the humor of Victoria as well, that she's willing to open the Pandora's box basically, and she's willing to explore, and she starts that question just to because she's already hooked up with this shady guy, so she just wants to check with the carers. So that's why she's smart. She opens with a joke.
Right.
Just because she thought that, now I have you on my hook. Now I can tell you about my date. And then when no, that's not a good idea. And then she gets more and more frustrated. And when she gets more and more frustrated, she's got more trouble to speak. That's one of the things we talked about. When she's, calm and happy, and then she's got a lot easier to speak. And when she gets this, or when it goes frictionless, and when she's getting frustrated, then she's having a lot more issues to talk, and that that's an evil circle, I guess. So she uses humor to try to open up and lure her in the trap. Right. Because she's already said from the beginning that I don't think it's a good idea. You talked with this guy all night, but you should meet with me first, and then she doesn't care about that, and she goes ahead anyway.
It feels slightly more taboo if a disabled person sits there and says they want to have sex, but inherently they are a sort of like sexual being, and they should be able to express themselves sexually. Like sex or desire or lust shouldn't be, as we sort of spoke about before, shouldn't be the preserve of just able-bodied people, and what I just kind of wondered a little bit in terms of the choice. I mean, you spoke about it briefly before, of like not showing Victoria having sex. Was that clearly like an artistic choice, or was that one related to the film's certification?
Yeah, we talked about it, but then again, I had a conversation with Eva, and she was a bit shy. But then we just scrapped it because we wanted to have the tension of and being with Ida outside, and just have the tension that we don't know what's going on up there. So it was just a tension builder. So we had a brief conversation. Let's see how it starts. Oh, that's looks nice, and then we cut outside, and then we don't see it. But it was just a decision we took that let's just build it up in the audience mind instead. It's I think it's better all in all.
And I just wonder, in terms of like, if you're taking your short film out to the film festival circuit, I guess it's one of those things that you do, if you go in for like a more sort of explicit sort of like sex scene, and push those boundaries. I mean, that's not essentially what the film's about, but how just receptive, I guess, like audiences are to seeing disabled people used in that, but seeing that particular context.
I think you're right in a way. You know, this film was to premiere at Cleveland, but then the COVID-19 arrived. Hello. So everything is, on hiatus for a couple of months. So I really don't know what the festivals are going to say, but I've had some rejections already, and I think I think this film could have some issues perhaps because it's like you say, it's about a disabled, and the poster gives away. If you haven't seen the poster, it's basically a disabled person, like this disabled person's sign, and she's giving a blowjob to this, I don't know, guy or woman, I don't know. It's not very clear, and it's a like a forbidden cross over it. So that's quite. I wanted to have quite a provocative poster of it to attract attention, and so. But if I do, because I think it's a good film, so I think it deserves the attention, even if it's disabled people and sex or whatever. It's basically it's an art house film, and it should work at film festivals. And I hope it works because I think normal, quote unquote, normal able people should see this to try to understand or grasp a little bit, or perhaps what it's like to be inside of a disabled person's mind, and try to understand that, we are exactly the same as you guys. It's just that we can't fucking walk or talk properly because of disability or sickness or disease, whatever. So even if it's, unusual, I think it's very important for us to see this.
I just wanted to sort of jump in quickly in terms of the editing sort of process with your editor. So when you originally sort of had the sort of rough cut of the film together, like how long was it? The
first cut was 29. The actual script is just 15 pages.
Right.
And I so this short story when I wrote it was I was in an airport coming back from Rome. I was this jury member in the film festivals. I was in Munich waiting for my flight back home to Stockholm, and I had thought of this idea from the podcast, and I just quickly I needed to write it down. So I wrote the first draft in 90 minutes. I was like, what the fuck? 15 pages of this looks a bit solid. Yeah, I think it's solid. Yeah. So I emailed it to my wife. She's a DP, and just asked her opinion. And she was like, I don't know. It's got something. And because I was unsure myself, but because it's this was too. I wrote it too quickly, I think. Right. It can't be good if I just wrote that quick. And then I emailed it to the producer, and he was like, "Yeah," because he is not his. on paper, it's not his genre from the get-go, but he was like, yeah, I think this is interesting. I think we should try to start a pre-production and see how it goes and work with a script. So we had 15 pages, and I thought, oh, so this is a 15-minute film. I didn't think that, we're gonna use a disabled person or a neighbor person, and she's gonna have to speak slowly. So when we got all the material and got back to the editing, I knew already, now this is never going to be 15.
Yeah.
Because one of the last scenes, the first take we did, there was 9 minutes long, just that scene. It was like, fine. Never mind. It's better to have like a good film than a 15-minute random film.
Yeah.
So the first cut was 29, and we thought, well, let's try to push it down a bit. And then it was 27, and then we did this rapid and rash decision that let's take that scene away because it tells almost the same thing. Okay. And then we were down to 23, and then I thought, no, it's no point to going under 23. I'll try to go under 20. So because I wanted this pace, because we had done the decision with the DP that I wanted to shoot it like quote unquote boring, because it's I'm very inspired by the Dardenne brothers from Belgium.
Right.
Natural lighting, quite long scenes, and just focus on the people in it, and just we don't need to cut up the action because let's just wait for them. Because as I said from the beginning, I like people. I like their reactions. I like to see their faces.
Yeah.
So that's why it's quite a slow-paced film. It's not Tarkovsky slow, but it's still it's social realism in my mind, and I like that.
In terms of the camera moves, because I noticed there is the camera moves like a lot, and you don't use many sort of locked off shots. Because you were shooting in such a sort of small period of time, did you work out those movements before, or was it a case if you got to set, you do like a walkthrough and then you kind of like have an idea of how it would sort of flow together?
We did a quick blocking on every scene and every. Because we were a super tiny team. I think we were like, 8 to 10 people. And in a small apartment. So we had talked about it because we'd done the recce. We knew the apartment and the size of it. And we needed to find new angles to have something different because they're watching telly and they're watching telly. And, and so, we did since we covered a lot of the scenes and quite few shots. The scene where they prepare for the photo of the Tinder profiles, that's basically one shot, and then 2 shots. So we wanted to have few shots, and so the blocking was quite easy. It's just finding the right interesting angle, so it's still interesting visually enough to make it work.
In terms of the locations that you picked, in terms of the swimming pool scene, Victoria's apartment, they all feel very lived in real, and you picked some really great locations. But sort of getting to my question, what's your sort of like tips to shooting in a room and where to sort of like place the camera to make it look sort of visually inviting?
That's a good question. For the swimming pool, let's say that's the first shot of the film, basically. So we wanted to have. It needs to be a shot that tells you a lot, that gives you a lot of information. So that first shot is basically this elevator, this lift thingy for disabled people to be put down in the water, and we see her being brought down in the water, and we see her carer. She's running the machine, and then we see this extra guy jumping in the pool, looking at them. So I think to find you need to find a good place that so this is set up. What do we want to tell about this location, or what's happening in it? It can't just be around. Oh, that's a nice bush. Yeah, but does it tell you anything? No, not really. But it's not. No, that's not good enough. The location needs to tell you something. So we wanted to have a place that's so the swimming pool is a public place. Yeah, so a lot of people could be watching you. It could be embarrassing for Victoria to be outside and having this much help and can't do anything. So, and same thing in the park. You're open and people to watch you. So that's why we chose the opening locations to be public and not contained. But then again, when we are inside in the apartment, then you are a bit more protected. That's no one can really see you in there. So there's your chance to act out, and what you feel is coming out in the way you want it. So a tip could be like, what's the location giving you in terms of the story?
And I just want to jump a little bit into the aspect ratio as well, because that's a very important part of how you present your film. You chose 16:9. Was there a particular reason why you chose that particular aspect ratio?
Yes, I think 16:9, like a full frame, is an honest way of telling a story. You don't have to put so. Some people, they choose 2:35, like the more cinematic choice. I don't want to put anything to enhance the story. So this is very vicious. This is a film. No, and I want to have a straight story, and a straight story for me is. This story is 16:9. It's a full frame, everything. We don't hide anything. We don't present anything extra.
Right.
In my last film I shot 4:3 because I was really interested in that film Son of Saul, the Hungarian film. Because I wanted to follow one character and just have the focus on her all the time. And everything else around her, we need to make up on our own. So that's why I chose 4:3. And at the time, 4:3 was quite, popular again, which is nice. I think it's nice when you can, change your aspect ratio by, it's nice to look at, and it's an old format. Why not, give it a boost? But 16:9 full frame is my, preferred choice in almost everything I do. I don't want to have any borders or letterboxes or because it messes things up.
In terms of the cameras you shot on, did you shoot digital or did you shoot on film? Because I noticed in terms of the sort of grading stuff, it has a lot more of a sort of film effect to my eye.
Yeah. It's digital. It's Arri Alexa. It's and we added some grain to it, not a lot, but a little bit. And nowadays we can make everything look like film. It's been a couple of years since I shot on film.
Right.
It's quite difficult nowadays because we only have one lab and it takes a little bit more time. So in this case, the DP had his own camera, and why not? It's a good camera. It gives you a good amount of material, and it looks good. So.
And I guess like the flexibility, like it's quite small, so I guess you can do the sort of handheld sort of stuff.
Exactly, and when you're shooting long scenes, like the last scene in the film, is like that's one roll. That's one roll if we shoot in one take. So in that case, shooting long scenes, then it's good to use the digital version.
So looking back on the last day of post-production, when everything was sort of locked off and finished, can you remember what you were thinking and feeling at that time? That's interesting because normally I'm a bit like, I don't know, I shouldn't say nervous, but normally I was like, yeah, okay, so I hope this works. But this time I felt this is fucking good, man. This is good. I had, I got the chills. I got the tears, I got the laugh. Me, myself, shouldn't have, because all the other people haven't seen it. Yeah, of course. But every time I see this now, I get the same feeling, in the end scenes, like I'm laughing, I'm crying a little bit. And, so I'm very, very happy about it. And also, we in the offline, we had used, the end music was by Max Richter, the acclaimed composer, and just like for reference, I know I tried to get the rights for it and didn't have time to. Well, it's a money thing, isn't it? Then I contacted Peter Gregson, who's also a very acclaimed cellist composer, and he knows Max. And he offered to write the end piece for it. And I was like, yeah, why not? That's brilliant, because I think that the end line and the end looks at the reactions, and then the music starts. I get the chills by just talking about it. I really like that. What was the biggest sort of creative choice that you got wrong? And in terms of how did you fix that when making this film?
Well, actually, I didn't get anything wrong in this. That's one of that's
Yeah,
why
yeah.
I'm quite proud of, because I for almost the first time since starting making film 15 years ago, I was very confident in every decision I've taken, that I took the right decision every single time, and with the help of the great actors, we didn't mess up. It was 2 long days and a 23-minute film. That's unheard of. But the planning was good. And it was so good with the crew and the locations. And since we rehearsed the story, they knew their character, knew what to say and how to say it. Right. So I think we didn't mess up at all, and we didn't have to. The only thing from the original draft was that the way I wrote it, there's a scene where we see Victoria all alone in her apartment, and we see Ida and her boyfriend basically having sex very subtly. So we cross-edited that. In the script, it's not written like that, we parallel editing. So that's the only thing we changed, just to heighten the contrast of being free and able to do whatever you want, and then, going back to her being alone and being treated like a piece of, she's got this other carer taking care of her during the nighttime. And he's just doing his job, cleaning her. But he's not really cleaning her in a gentle way. He's read his instruction. Yeah, clean her by night. It's just like she's this inanimate thing. So that's the only thing that we changed from how it was written and how we edited it.
So I just wanted to sort of jump into a little bit of what's your sort of dream project at the moment, if money and time wasn't an issue?
I have a dream project that I'm currently working on. It's a feature that I hope to shoot this autumn, and it's based on the last short film called Second Class. I'm working on that, making a feature out of it. So because my dream project is to make. I came up with this expression. So art house Disney, or Disney art house. So I like to tell stories that perhaps could be. It's not a blockbuster story. It's normal stories, like the Dardenne brothers. Again, they are telling stories that are really important, and it's based on how the world. It's based on people having issues, basically. So, and I want to tell those stories. It could be, super small stories, but it's super important for those characters. So I'm not super interested in making like big fuck all movies. It's I want to make smaller movies, but they could be big in the general feeling of it. So that the story I'm working on now, it's a dream project for me, because I think it's important. So we're talking about racism. We're talking about because it's about this POC person. She works as a teacher, and she gets attacked by a neo-Nazi. She gets really, really hurt, and when she comes back to school, she finds out that one of her students is the son of that Nazi. And that boy, he's got the ability to sing very nicely, and she's a former singer, and so the bonding between them is by singing and making up a song together. So she wants to save him from becoming too influenced by his father, because even though she would like him to, you should grow up with your father, because he doesn't have a mother. And even though he's fucked on with his views, I'm trying to give you some protection from the influence. He's talking about hate and racism.
I mean, I read in previous interviews about sort of Second Class that it was sort of based somewhat on you growing up in Sweden and being around people with those particular views.
Exactly.
I mean, as you sort of progress in sort of adulthood and like now as a sort of like filmmaker, and if you do sort of like go home, I mean, how have you seen where you actually come from? I mean, has there been more of an explosion of sort of popularism where you come from? Has it become much worse than it was?
Well, I think, it's much worse than it was, but in a different way. Now people are wearing suits instead of, being, the skinheads of, the bomber jackets and then the boots and the shaven heads. And it's more dangerous now politically.
Right.
20 years ago, you could see them. Oh, there they are, bastards. But one of the aspects where I came from and what I want to do as a filmmaker is I want to learn how to be a better person. So I want to tell stories that comes from me. So. I was brought up in the south of Sweden. We had a lot of issues with racism, and I was, in between everything. I was a football supporter, and I was hanging out with hooligans, and in the hooligan gangs, of course, they're racist. And then I was hanging out with the immigrants who came from former Yugoslavia, and because they were the cool kids and they smoked and stuff, they had all the chicks. I want to be with them as well. And I was with the skater boys because they was I don't give a fuck. Okay, so 3 different groups. Where am I in this? So. It's for me as a filmmaker. I want to try to explain who I am.
Right.
And that's why some of my films are a bit therapeutical for me.
And just one final question, just to wrap up with you. What's the one sort of TV show, film, and game that you're most looking forward to in 2020, if there's any coming out this year?
The only thing that comes to mind. That's 2019, but I can talk about 2019. So one incredible film that came out late last year was Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
Right.
That for me is like a pure masterpiece in every frame. So 2020, haven't seen that many films yet in 2020. But the funny thing is I'm really looking forward to Top Gun 2.
Oh, me too. I'm the same way on that one.
It's because I remember when I was a kid, my brother, he watched Top Gun every day coming back from school. He watched it every day.
Wow.
I was like, well, that's weird. Yeah, he just likes to watch it.
Yeah.
And I watched it, several times as well. It's a film. It's a film, yeah. So it's an entertaining film. But now like 30 years later, I don't know. It's just a nostalgic thing, I think. It's gonna be crap, but I want to see it.
I think.
So yeah.
It was the thing where I want to see it most, not so the story in it, it's just like the technical aerial photography, because it's just going to be like the most insane aerial photography you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah, I saw this behind the scenes things that they had like a small IMAX camera inside the cockpit, and they are flying for real because Tom Cruise wanted to have the G-force, because we see the G-force in the faces and you can't really act that. So yeah, let's fly for real. So, wow. I thought that was quite impressive.
So there you have it. I had a great time chatting with Jimmy, and you can find out more about Alive at www.regissa.com. Just hit the link in the description box below. And don't forget to check out more great content on arubla.com, from film reviews, video game hot takes and top 10 videos. And why not sign up and become a member and share your passion for all things entertainment on arubla.com today. And you can like and subscribe to I Was Just Wondering with Tom Salmon on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify and YouTube. Maybe leave a comment or review if you like. And you can support the podcast on Subscribestar at www.subscribestar.com/I Was Just Wondering with Tom Salmon right now. Thank you so much for listening. I've been Tom, and I'll catch up with you next episode.